All right. Well, the numbers don't necessarily speak to it like a Baylor or a program like that. There's as much talented wide receiver year to year at Alabama than anywhere else in the country. Amari Cooper being the recent standard there. But there's a guy right on his heels who was mighty impressive as a freshman last season. We bring in Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama to help us break down the Crimson Tide position by position. And we get to the Glamour Boys here. Stephen M., they're fun to watch. They're freakish athletes. The wide receivers, Calvin Ridley, 89 receptions, 1,045 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And he got better by the week, and he got better against the better opponents and made huge plays in big games. What makes Ridley so special?
Route running, attention to detail, incredible top-end speed, and to play from day one. I remember talking with Lane Kiffin, and Lane Kiffin told the media the first day that they had Calvin Ridley in 7-on-7, how special he was. Lane Kiffin, this is a guy that's worked with so many receivers: Mike Williams, Steve Smith, Dwayne Jarrett, Robert Wood, Marquise Lee in 2014, DeAndre White in 2014. So when Lane Kiffin recognizes a talented receiver, you know, and Calvin Ridley, nothing short of that last year. You bring up the numbers, Mark, and you bring up the numbers in games. And for example, the Arkansas game, if Calvin Ridley does not catch an 81-yard pass from Jacob Coker game, Arkansas had a 7-3 lead in the fourth quarter. Calvin Ridley makes a big-time play. You go back to the Georgia game, the first game in which, you know, Alabama fans are kind of thinking, we lost to Ole Miss, what's going to happen next? And Calvin Ridley steps up in that game, produces big numbers, had 5 catches for 124 yards and a 45-yard touchdown. You go to the Florida game, he jumps up in between both Jalen Tabor and Vernon Hargreaves to make a 50-yard catch. And we're talking about two of the better corners in the SEC in Jalen Tabor and Vernon Hargreaves. He had a touchdown reception against Mississippi State of 76 yards. And then, of course, the Michigan State game, I mean, poor Mark D'Antonio. He had to watch the freshman from Coconut Creek, Florida, just go to school on his secondary. Catches in excess of 50 yards for Calvin Ridley against the Spartans, including one for a touchdown. Catches for $138 and 2 touchdowns in that game. But he set a single-season freshman record, surpassing Amari Cooper's mark in 2012. Cooper, who had 59 catches for 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns that year. And Amari Cooper was on ESPN First Take while the season was starting, and Coop said himself that Calvin Ridley will be so when Amari Cooper, one of the greats, tell you it's going to be special, you tend to take heed to it. And Calvin Ridley, nothing short of remarkable last year.
So he's a definite number one, maybe number one in the country, a definite number two, and a quality second receiver right here. Ardarius Stewart made some big plays in big games to his own credit, 63 for 700 yards, 4 touchdowns. Your thoughts about Stewart's role?
Proud of the way Ardarius Stewart blossomed midway through the season last year. People fail to realize when Stewart came to Alabama from Fultondale High School in 2013, 6'1", about 210 pounds now. But Stewart was always a great athlete. You didn't really know what his refined role was because he played some of everything in high school. Played some on defense, played some at quarterback. You never really knew what was his refined role. We knew how big of an athlete he was. So when he came to Alabama, being redshirted that year, 2014, he was a redshirt freshman, got on the field in some games, including against Mississippi State in 2014, had 3 catches for 25 yards. You see the speed, but he had problems with drops. He'll have games where he'll catch a big pass. He'll have games where he'll drop a couple. And it was the matchup against Tennessee last year, Mark, where he really came to life. Had 7 catches for 88 yards, really brought the ball in. Jacob Coker had a couple of throws to him where it was underthrown. Ardarius Stewart, a tremendous job adjusting to the ball, contorting his body, bringing the ball in, making some big-time plays, bailing out his quarterback in the 19-14 win over Tennessee for Alabama. And from that game on, he grew from there. Played well against Auburn, played very well against Florida in the SEC championship game. Of course, a 32-yard touchdown reception there. And against Clemson, had a ridiculous catch where I don't think Ardarius Stewart even knew the ball was coming. Jacob Coker's about to get smacked by Kevin Dodd. Ball up there, and Ardarius Stewart at the last possible second, there's the ball. He's completely draped by Mackenzie Alexander, and the ball just drops into the breadbasket of Ardarius Stewart, and fans are going, how in the heck did that happen? He's not even looking toward the ball, but he makes the play. And I go back to the Tennessee game, came on for Stewart, where he really started to trust himself, adjust to the football, and make plays.
So you lost an unsung hero for this national championship run in Richard Mullaney, who is now in camp with the Houston Texans, but it looks like you've got a bit of a replacement coming from Bowling Green.
Richard Mullaney, definitely a godsend for Alabama, coming from Oregon State, a guy that last year, 38 catches for 390 yards, 5 touchdowns, did everything he could to lay out, make plays to a national championship team. But get another graduate transfer, this one from Bowling Green by the name of Garrick Dieter. His family took the names of Lou Garrick and Derek Jeter to perform a little combination there. Garrick Dieter, 6'3", 207 pounds. A little fun fact, Garrick Dieter has the same size Packer wide receiver Jordy Nelson. They both have the same size, 6'3", 207 pounds. And both Jordy Nelson didn't really emerge in college. Of course, Nelson from Kansas State, they didn't really emerge in college until their senior year. Garrick Dieter emerged last year for Bowling Green, 94 catches, had 10 touchdown receptions last year. And Jordy Nelson didn't really emerge at Kansas State until the 2007 year, his senior year, where he was a Biletnikoff Award finalist. So there's some interesting information right there. But Garrick Dieter, tremendous route runner, great size, but he's got the uncanny ability to make those Odell Beckham Jr.-like plays where he just elevates over the top of a defensive back to bring the ball in. So a guy at Alabama, very much so happy to have. He's got strength. He's got speed, exceptional playmaking ability. He's already on campus right now and a special kid in the system.
Looking back in previous years on the recruiting rankings at wide receiver, Alabama very prominent before Calvin Ridley, with Robert Foster going all the way back to 2013, rated as the second best wide receiver coming out of high school. Cam Sims, number 8 in 2014. There's still some hope there that those guys can make an impact at this level.
And both of those boys are ready. These are two guys that last year was tabbed as their year. 6'5", 205 pounds, coming from a Ouachita Parish High School in Monroe, Louisiana. In 2014, Cam Sims was actually tabbed as the heir apparent to Amari Cooper. He had 7 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown as a freshman. A lot of people saw the elevation, the hands, the big-time body of Cam Sims, but as we know, the following year hurts his ACL in spring ball. Robert Foster and Ardarius Stewart to emerge together. Robert Foster, the 5-star, as you mentioned, from Monica, Pennsylvania, Central Valley High School in 2013, a young man who had to learn how to be more coachable. Didn't take coaching well his first couple of years on campus, despite having the balance and body control. His hands and speed have come into full circle now. We're starting to have a good year last year, but week 3 of the season, tore his rotator cuff against Ole Miss after getting 10 catches for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. So with both of these guys back, have the leadership that they have, whomever's under center, be thankful, thank God, because you're fortunate. You got the talent around you, and these two in particular, Cam Sims and Robert Foster, Mark, I call them the original Savages because they're ready to take back from them via injury last year.
Love that nickname. That's got to catch on. And if those guys catch 50 or 60 balls in the next couple of years, then, yeah, that really needs to take hold there. Let's switch to tight end. O.J. Howard is a guy that even though he didn't get a whole lot of reps in the passing game as a freshman in 2013, we all saw the potential and we saw the playmaking ability and the mismatch issue that defense has had with O.J. Howard in catching 14 balls and 2 touchdowns. And again, they were meaningful catches. We expected more out of him in 2014, 2015. No scoring plays out of him, although he had some productive days against big opponents, Ole Miss in particular. Then came the national championship game, and we really got to see what O.J. Howard is capable of doing against a high-level defense if given the targets.
We saw that, and it was not just Clemson, Mark. It was the entire college football playoff. Go back to Michigan State. He had 3 catches for 59 yards. And then the national championship game against Clemson, 5 catches for 208 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if you look at the postseason entirely, for 267 yards versus the regular season where he had 34 catches, 3 yards. So it was like regular season, hi, I'm O.J. Howard and I have cable. Postseason, hey, I'm O.J. Howard and I have DirecTV. He ended the year with 602 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. And Nick Saban even made a comment that, Josh, for not getting O.J. Howard the ball more because the guy is 6'6", 242. Just that mass of an athlete. You want to get that guy the ball in space and really see what he could do. And, you know, for O.J. Howard, he had to be patient because another thing with Saban for athlete, not just being able to catch the ball, but being able to block, being able to understand concepts of what you are doing on the field, not just being able to go out there and say, hey, I caught a pass or, hey, I made a big play. On the field, he wants you to understand not just your job, but the concept in doing your job. And I think that's what O.J. Howard had to learn, the concept of why I'm on the field, his job. And once he got that down and the patience of that, started to see from O.J. during his sophomore year that they didn't see. So once he got the concepts down, I think that was when, okay, Lane, now let's give him the football.
And unlike most of college football, as you well know, Stephen, tight end still a blocking position at Alabama, and that's one of the reasons you really value this 4-star out of Missouri.
Hale Hinkes is going to be a very special kid. He's got great hands, as you mentioned, tremendous blocker, but he can catch the football. He's got some mitts on him, can catch the ball, bring it down, get downfield, create some opportunities. He did get a lot of playing time last year, but I think he's a guy that, on part 1, he's most so focused on the concepts of what he's going to do, open up opportunities in the run game first, and then occasionally slip out there and catch the football. Hale Hinkes kind of reminds me of the previous tight ends, the Michael Williams, the Brian Voglers, that focused on blocking first. If I'm fortunate, go out there, catch the football, get downfield, versus O.J. Howard, where wow, he's a massive freak of nature. So that's the beauty of having both. You have the guy that's structured on what Alabama's used to on as a blocker and then catching the football, and then with O.J. Howard on.
All right, he is Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama, and he is our guy for Alabama football, SEC football in general. Stephen, It's always a good time. Great breakdown on the wide receivers, the running backs, and the quarterbacks, and hopefully we can catch up with you soon.
Mark, I appreciate you for having me on, and you and your family enjoy Memorial Day weekend.